Okay, guys, this is our fourth and final conic section. Section 9.5 is on parabolas, and good news is you know the majority of the information in this section, so I'm just going to make this quick. First of all, we've been dealing with this big equation for all of our quadratic relations. B has been 0 and will remain 0 until one specific section later in the chapter, so we don't have to worry about that term. And then we've had three separate shapes. When A equals C, we get a circle. When A is not equal to C, but they have the same sign, then that produces an ellipse, just kind of a distorted circle. When A and C have opposite signs, that's what we talked about last time with the hyperbola. And the final one for today is either A equals 0 or, C equals 0. That's going to make a parabola. So you'll recognize a parabola because it will only have one squared term in it, like 2y squared plus x minus 12y plus 10 equals 0. That's an example in the form that we've been working with. Notice there's no x squared term. Now we've used parabolas several times throughout this this book, and we don't usually write them that way. Usually they're solved for the graphing, or for the variable in question. So we've been dealing with parabolas that look like y equals negative 4x squared plus 20x minus 16. And that's an example, one of your example problems. And we've done lots of stuff with this. We found the vertex, which the x-coordinate of the vertex would be negative b over 2a. Technically, we call that h if the vertex is hk. And then you sub back in that value to get your k. So that's how we found the vertex. We found y-intercepts by setting x equals 0 and solve. So this one will have a y-intercept of negative 16. We found x-intercepts by setting y equal to 0. And then you had two options. You either factor or do the quadratic formula. And this is all stuff that you probably did in Algebra 1. You've done it again in Algebra 2. So there's nothing really new thus far. Now you know that it's one of our conic sections. If you slice a cone in a certain way, you'll get a parabola. We're going to talk a little bit about the geometric definition of parabola. But as far as the skills we have for this particular section, nothing much new is going to happen. The problems are going to ask you to find the vertex and the intercepts and sketch the graph. So that's the info I've just reviewed with you. One difference. Some of the parabolas in this section open left to right. Instead of up and down. And those are going to be not functions, but everything else is going to kind of work the same. What used to be an x is now going to be a y. So let's do an example. I'm going to have x equals, wrote y out of habit, because I always write y equals, x equals 1/2 y squared plus 3y plus 4. And what should say parabola to you about this equation is the fact that there's only a y squared. We've dealt with these where the x's and y's have been switched. It's just now what we used to find in terms of x will now be y. So negative b over 2a now gives us the y part of the vertex. It used to give us the x part, now it gives us the y part. So let's find that. Negative b over 2a. That's negative 3 over 2 times a half, or negative 3. So now I sub that back in to get the x part. And to me, it's a lot easier trying to remember h and k and all that just to know that this is the y part and next comes the x part. So x equals 1/2 times negative 3 squared plus 3 times negative 3 plus 4. All right, so that's half of 9, because negative 3 squared is 9. So it's 9/2 minus 9 plus 4. Or 9/2 minus 18/2 plus 8/2 for a total of 9 minus 18 is negative 9 plus 8. That's negative 1/2. I do believe that's correct. So my vertex, negative 1/2, negative 3. All right, so I'm working on graphing this thing, and that's a big part of the graph is the vertex. Okay, so what else do I know about a graph? I know that it has x and y intercepts. Universally, an x-intercept comes when y equals 0. So I'm going to set y equal to 0, and I'm going to get x equals 1/2 of 0 plus 3 times 0 plus 4. So x-intercept is the easy one now. The y-intercept is going to be the one that takes a little work. So let's find the y-intercept. Universally, to find the y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. What you're saying to the graph is, graph, I'm going to force x to be 0, or I'm going to force your left to rightness to be 0. And equation, you tell me how high I need to go to make that true. So we've got 1/2, 3, and 4. And we have the same two options. We either factor it or we use the quadratic formula. And I'm not sure if factoring will work. It might, but I'm just going to do the quadratic formula because I know that always works. So I'll do negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. That's 4 times 1/2 times 4, which is 4 times 2, which is 8, all over 2a, which is 1. So the square root of 9 minus 8 is the square root of 1. So this is negative 3 plus or minus 1 over 1. Turns out it would have factored. Negative 3 minus 1 over 1 is negative 4. Negative 3 plus 1 over 1 is negative 2. So that's all this section asks you to find. It asks you to find vertex, x-intercept, y-intercept. And you just use the same old skills except reversed, x and y. So last thing will be to graph this. All right, so we know it opens side to side because x was the part that got squared. Our x's and y's are reversed from what we've always done. So it's going to open side to side. Its vertex is negative 1/2, negative 3, which is negative 1/2, negative 3 right here. Its x-intercept is 4, which is right here. And the y-intercepts are negative 4 and negative 2, which are negative 4 and negative 2 right there. And you can see how it makes sideways parabola. And there are other questions I could ask, like what's the symmetric point, which would be down here. And I could ask you what's the equation of the axis of symmetry, which is right there, at y equals negative 3. But the book questions only ask you for 3 things. These actually 4 things: the vertex, the x-intercepts, the y-intercepts, and a graph. And so until we get into a little bit more about parabolas, that's what you need to know for section 9.5. So that's it. Hope you've enjoyed parabolas, my favorite of the conic sections, and I'll see you in class. Young out.